This video covers retest review 3 over exponents and radicals. So at the top, they asked me to simplify each expression, show my works, and box the answer. So the first thing I'm looking for is this distributing right on top. So I'm going to distribute the -4 to the 3 and the -4 to the x to the -8. And I'm not going to do anything with the bottom yet. Now, whenever I distribute, remember that this is 3 to the -4 as a number. So I don't do 3 times -4. I leave it as 3 to the -4. But I'm going to rewrite my numbers and my letters exactly like I see them. So now with my numbers, I'm going to put them into the calculator exactly like I see it. So when I use the calculator, I'm going to do alpha y equals because I have a fraction. On the top, I'm going to do 3 raised, or the caret, to the -4. And on the bottom, I'm going to put 12. And I'm going to use the calculator, and it tells me it's a really ugly number. And I do math inner to get the fraction of that really ugly number. So it's 1/972. Then for the exponents on the top, if they are shown right next to each other, I multiply, and then division tells me I subtract the bottom. The bottom is -11. So in my calculator, I'm going to type -8 times -4 minus parentheses -11. And it tells me the total is 43. Now 43 is positive, so that's going to go on the top. So for my final answer, I'm going to have x to the 43 on the top and 972 on the bottom. You could also put the 1 in front from this if you wanted to. That would not be incorrect. Problem 2, the first thing I noticed is I have an a to the 0. That 0 is just on a, nothing else. And so I'm going to go ahead and scratch that out. Then I do notice I have a b to the -4. Negatives need to move to the bottom, and I cannot put a negative in my answer. So I draw the down arrow to remind myself that it's going to go down to the bottom. Now the 2 and the c, we have no issues with. There's nothing wrong with those. So 2 and c can stay where they are. A is not being rewritten because it canceled out, and B pushes to the bottom to become positive. I don't have any repeats, like big numbers or other letters that repeat, so there's nothing else I need to do for that. Problem 3, this is all multiplication. I know that it's multiplication because there's no signs shown. So 4, 3, and -2 are going to be multiplied. For my A's, I have A3, and A2. And B's, I have B2 and B4. Big numbers are normal numbers, so I'm going to type it into my calculator exactly like I see it. 4 times 3 times -2, and it tells me -24. Now remember, big normal numbers, normal big negative numbers are fine. Big numbers, big numbers are normal, so I don't have to freak out about the -24. Now with my A's, they're multiplied. When I look at my formula chart, it shows me that multiplication tells me to add my exponents. So 1 + 3 + 2 is 6. Same thing with the B's. They're being multiplied, so I really add, and I get 6. So my full answer is just rewritten all together, -24, A6, B6. Problem 4, I have a 2 that is going to be distributed and a 4 that's going to be distributed. Remember, with that 2, we have a big 6 and it gets a little 2. Make sure you're watching little things like that. A to the 1/4 gets a 2, and this one can stay just rewritten, but it's going to get a 4. So with my numbers, I have 6 squared, not 6 times 2, but 6 with a little 2. So I put it in the calculator and I get 36. With my A's, I have 1/4 times 2. They're multiplied because that's what my formula chart tells me to do, and it's right on top of it. So I do 1/4 times 2, and I get 1/2. And then over here, 1/2 times 4, and I get 2. Now, because these are separated, they're multiplied, I add 1/2 and 2, and I get 5/2. So my final answer is 36a to the 5/2. You could also take it at this point if you wanted to and do 1/2. That's not a half. Nope, still a half. I'm trying to put 1/4. Okay. 1/4 times 2 plus 1/2 times 4, and take these two things, multiply and add all in the same step. I just think sometimes that's a little confusing for us, but it's totally up to you. Problem 15, this one's a simple dividing. I don't see any zeros. I don't see any distributing. So I'm going to start rewriting my numbers. I have -15 and 18, A4 over A2, and B3 over B6. You don't have to rewrite them. I just think it's easier to see them. Big numbers are normal numbers. So I put in my calculator -15 over 18. And when I click enter, the answer is -5 over 6. If you forget to do it in a fraction, remember math enter gets you those fractions. Now my A's and my B's are both being divided, so I look on my formula chart and it shows me that division really means subtraction. So A to the 4 minus 2 is A2. B to the 3 minus 6, remember we always do top minus bottom, is B to the -3. So B will push down to the bottom. So my full answer is -5 over 6. A was positive on the top, B was negative on the top, so we push it to the bottom, and it becomes positive. Problem 6, I see an e to the 0, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel it out to make sure I don't make any silly mistakes. I've noticed some people put a 1 and then they multiply 1 times 5 and it totally changes their number. So I would just go ahead and cross that out like it wasn't even there. So for what's left, you don't have to rewrite this. I'm just showing you. We really have 4b5 to the 5. So everything gets a little 5. 4 gets a little 5. b5 gets a little 5. Now 4 to the 5th, I type it in my calculator, 4 raised to the 5, and it tells me it's 1024. So I just put that exactly like I see it in my calculator. Exponents that are right on top of each other, we multiply. So 5 times 5 is 25. And notice that's not 5 to the little 5. We don't do that when we distribute. When we distribute or power to a power, we multiply. This is asking me to convert the following expressions using rational exponents. So here I have a fraction with no square root, which means they want it to have a square root. Remember, 3 is so powerful, it pushes 8 outside of the square root, so that 8 goes outside the square root. It is not 8 times the square root, it is a little 8 outside of the square root. So please do not write that. Now 37 is an innocent bystander, stays where he is, and then the 3 wins, so 3 gets to stay inside as the top dog, top exponent with 37. Now problem 8, this one we're going back the other way. This time we have a square root and we want to write it with a rational or a fraction exponent. So again, 57 is the innocent bystander. 3 was the one who was so strong he got to stay as a top dog, and so 3 has to go on top. And then 4 was the one who got pushed outside, so 4 will go outside. It could also be rewritten like this. Hold on. Where 57 has a 1/4, and then there's a 3 out to the side. It does not matter, it's up to you. Problem 9 asks me to simplify the following square root. So I'm going to break this up. You could say 480 is even. You could also say 480 ends in a 0, so it's divisible by a 10. So 10 and 48. Now 10 can be broken up further with 2 and 5, but you cannot break up 2 or 5 further. 48 is 6 times 8, so 6 is 2 and 3, and those are both stuck. 8 is 2 and 4. 2 cannot be broken down, but 4 is 2 and 2. So when I replace this, instead of 480, I'm putting 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, and 5. And you're going to hear me checking this in my calculator really quickly. I'm doing 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, and it is 480, so I know I've simplified it correctly. In order to get outside the square root, you have to have a pair. You have to have a group of 2. Not a group of the number 2, but a set of sets of 2's. So we have a set of 2's and it gets rewritten. A set of 2's gets rewritten. Inside the square root, nothing changes. Anything that's left can stay inside. Now, outsides can hang out with outsides. So 2 times 2 is 4. Insides with insides, 2 times 3 times 5 is 30. A quick check that I can do is do the square root of 480 in my calculator, and I get the really ugly decimal 21.9. You cannot put that as your answer, but you can use it to check your answer. If I do 4 times the square root of 30, I also get 21.9. So I start and end with the same ugly decimal, so I've converted it correctly. Problem 10, 208, I see, ends in an 8, so I know it's an even number, so divisible by 2. 104, still a pretty big number. I could try dividing by 4, and I get 26, so that works. 4 can be broken down to 2 and 2. 26 is 2 and 13, and 36 cannot be, 13 cannot be broken down further. So this time I have to be careful because there is a 3 outside the square root. And then I have 2, 2, 2, 2, and 13. So this 2 sets of 2's can come out. 13 has to stay. And then 3 was already there. Anything outside can play together. So 3 times 2 times 2 is 12. 13 stays inside. Again, I have to simplify. I cannot write the ugly decimals, but in my calculator, I can say 3 times the square root of 208 is 43.3, and then 12 times the square root of 13 is 43.3, so I start and end with the same thing. If you plug it in and you get like 17.2, then you know you have not done it right and need to go back and reevaluate. 2 more problems. Problem 11, we have the area of a rectangle is 12a7b4 and the width is 4a squared b squared. What is the length? So remember, they give you the formula here, but anytime you have area, you're going to need to divide. So I'm going to take my area and divide it by the width. Big numbers are normal, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. A's and B's are a little bit different. These we have to look on our formula chart. Formula chart tells me to take top and subtract the bottom. So my final answer is 3a5b2. And again, dividing big numbers like normal, subtracting little exponents because they're divided. Last one, problem 12, the expression x6, x negative 10 is equivalent to x to the n. What is the value of n? So with these exponents, I'm going to add them. So I would normally do x to the 6 plus negative 10, and they're telling me so it's equivalent or equal to x to the n. So 6 plus negative 10 is negative 4. And that is equivalent to x to the n. My x's are the same, so my exponents are going to be the same. So n is negative 4. And you do need something like negative 4 circled or negative 4 equals n.